Are you a small business owner trying to be in all the places? Maybe you're trying to simultaneously rock TikTok, post on LinkedIn, follow the latest Instagram trend, get on YouTube, all the places. It's exhausting. Are you exhausted? Let's be honest. Doing that is a recipe for burnout. So whoever told you you've got to be in all the places, well, that was some bad advice. And in this episode, I'm going to break down what you should do instead. Welcome to Camera Confident. I'm your host, Shirlee Engel, former TV correspondent turned entrepreneur. Tune in to master what to say, how to say it, and how to create buzz for your brand. Whether you're hitting record for the first time or trying to land major media opportunities, I've got you covered. Get ready to crush it on video or stage, attract more clients, and bring in more money so you can run your business and live your life your way. Welcome to another edition of the Camera Confident podcast. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks so much for spending your time with me. Now, maybe you were enticed by the intro to this episode. Maybe you're just over a certain platform on social media that is draining your energy, draining all the inspiration. You go work so hard on posts, you post on there, and it's crickets. And then you go on and you try to find all the gurus and all the coaches and who can tell me what the magic formula to go viral. What is the perfect combination of a hook, a call to action? Oh, wait, I have to have trending audio. I'm exhausted just talking about this. So I can only imagine what this grind is like for you. But there's some good news. It doesn't have to be that way. In fact, if you're out there trying to be in all the places, posting on every platform, trying to optimize your content for LinkedIn, for YouTube, for Instagram, for TikTok, whatever the platforms are these days, at the time of this recording, those were the big ones. I have some really good news for you. Just stop. Stop. Take a breath and take a step back. In this episode, I want to break down some advice that I have for anybody who is an entrepreneur trying to grow their visibility online on social media, and you're finding that the return on investment is almost not there at all. Maybe you've thought, I just need to invest in ads. Here's the thing. If you're generating content trying to be everywhere, you're probably creating something that's pretty generic, that is not really speaking to anyone in particular. And guess what? It ends up reaching exactly no one. If you're trying to optimize every piece of content for all the different platforms so that your ideal client can go find you on all these different media, it's not worth it, because chances are the type of person that you're trying to reach tends to hang out in one place in particular. The content is not going to be the same on all of those platforms, because what works on Instagram doesn't necessarily work on TikTok. What works on YouTube doesn't necessarily work on LinkedIn. And I don't know about you, but I don't have all day as an entrepreneur to try to figure out what works where. Sure, you can hire a social media manager to do this all for you, especially at the beginning of your entrepreneurship journey and in the early years. I highly encourage you to keep the reins on content creation, at least as far as ideas and messaging and overall vibe, because that is you. That's what you're trying to convey, and trying to outsource that to someone else for you is going to result in a bit of a disconnect for your ideal client, because they might have a certain persona that they're following, and then when they get in front of you, they're like, wait a second. They can sense the difference. Now, you may not be able to sense it. You may think, oh, well, I'm looking over their shoulder. I know exactly what's going into this. This is, after all, my business. But there is a certain level of connection that you lose when you're not the one who's putting the heart and soul into that content. So yes, if you're growing, if you are at a point where you need to outsource this task, absolutely. I'm not saying you don't get some help on social media, but I really want to make sure that you're not completely outsourcing the whole thing and disconnecting yourself from it. Because what's the point of social media if you're not going to be social on there? You need to really understand the audience, and it's a two-way street. It's not just about posting and ghosting. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not here purporting to be a social media strategist. That is not what my business is all about. That is not what I work with clients on. I'm all about the camera confidence, the messaging, the storytelling. I couldn't give a hoot about the metrics. The only thing that the metrics do is tell me if certain messages are resonating based on the engagement, not on the number of views. Because if you really break down the number of views, if you go into your insights and you start to really unpack how long did each person watch your content? Where do they drop off? A lot of social media platforms will give you this very valuable information. And if people are dropping off after 2 seconds, they're not getting your message. They're sure not getting your offer, whatever it is that you're saying at the end of your reel. So how valuable really are those views if those people are just kind of scrolling past you? But when you're thinking about posting content, think about being authentic and telling your story first, then worry about the metrics second. I know this is counter to what you've been taught in marketing and what you think you need to do in order to boost your revenue and sales, but I can promise you with a very small following on social media platforms, I still get a lot of engagement, and not all of it is something you can see. A lot of it is in the DMs. A lot of it is in organic conversations that I might start on other threads. So there's other ways to actually connect with your ideal client on social that aren't those traditional post and then, hope someone comments or sees it. I want to be clear here. I'm not suggesting that visibility and a large following are not important. Of course, they help you secure brand deals. When people do come across your profile, if you have a lot of followers, it does come with a certain credibility. It does give you a certain cred in the business world that, oh, I have X number of followers. But really, when it comes to the bottom line, if you could peek inside the revenues of some of these people on Instagram or on other platforms that have these massive followings, if you look under the hood, you'll probably see that it's not all roses and sunshine. And never mind the fact that a lot of people who are commenting don't end up becoming buyers, don't end up taking action. So just be sure not to fixate on those vanity metrics at the expense of staying true to your message and your story. So I'm saying you don't need to be in all the places. Far from it. You're probably diluting your message and diluting the effectiveness of your message by doing that. But I'm all about giving you actionable tips and helping you walk away from every episode with something you can do to move the needle forward in your business. What I'm saying is you can choose one platform and still make a massive impact. No matter what platform you're on, the most important thing is your message. The audience is different on these different platforms. There might be some crossover, but at the end of the day, when they're on that platform, they have a certain expectation. The people who hang out on LinkedIn tend to be a certain type of person, usually professional, higher incomes than maybe some other platforms. And they're there to talk about the world of work. They're there to network. They're there to really put their best foot forward. You don't see a lot of negativity on LinkedIn. It's overall a very positive platform. If you think about TikTok, it tends to skew younger. I'm of a generation where I still am figuring TikTok out. For some generations, it just makes sense. It's the way things are. Whereas for maybe some older generations, they're just still scratching their heads like, I don't know how to talk to people on this platform. I don't understand why this meme is getting millions of views when this other reel is so much more engaging and interesting and nobody's watching it. Well, that's because it's a certain kind of audience on there. So think about your own messages much in the same way. You can't just cross-post the same thing on all these different platforms and expect it to resonate the same way. You do have to slightly tweak the recipe if you're going to do that. And by doing that, you create a lot more work for yourself. And you've got to ask yourself, what is the return on investment of putting in all that effort? And are you better off just going all in on one platform? I'll give you an example. I started an Instagram account when I launched my camera confident business. And I was thinking, I'm going to build this up. It's going to be great. I'm going to post every single day. And it was exhausting. I was working really hard on my reels. Of course, as a video coach, as a camera confidence and media visibility coach, I wanted my content to be good. I wanted to put story into it. I wanted to edit it so that it looked sassy. But you know what the truth is, the reality is, a lot of that content didn't go very far on Instagram because that's not what was trending on Instagram at the time. I felt like I was putting in all this time and wasn't seeing a lot of results. Or so I thought. With just a few hundred followers, I still get DMs a lot. I still get people reaching out saying, hey, I love your content. I'd love to know more about your program or what you can help me with. And that's still with a few hundred followers at the time of this recording. So the metrics really shouldn't be the indication. It's about how you're able to attract your ideal audience, your ideal client in those types of platforms. Recently, I've made a shift to LinkedIn and YouTube, and these are two platforms that right now I am really leaning into. And there's a few reasons for that. First of all, I'm in the B2B space, which means I am in a business that works with other businesses. I work with entrepreneurs and executives and people who work in businesses. So LinkedIn is a great platform. This podcast, maybe you're watching it on YouTube, is a great place to really have that long format content that you can't put anywhere else. So this is something that's really, really important in your own business. If your ideal client could hang out in one place, where is that? And what kinds of messages resonate the most? Get curious. Go follow other people who are in your niche, who are just crushing it on that platform. What kind of content are they putting out? I am not suggesting you copy it. Far from it. But just get curious. What are they putting out there? And then get into those comments. Get into the engagement. What are people saying? What are they asking for? What do they respond to? What gets them excited? Are they talking about some of their problems or struggles? And can you extrapolate from there a couple of ideas that you can use in your own content so you can show that you really understand those people? It's not about going in there and trying to get those people into DMs. No, that's kind of spammy and, can be a little bit icky to the people on the other end. I'm talking about just using it as a research tool. And that way, if you start putting your content out there on that platform, if you start talking about those things that you can really help with, and you do it for long enough and you're consistent, I know we all hate that word consistency, but if you're consistent on that one platform and you're patient, you will see those results. And make sure that the results that you're looking for, that you're chasing, are not the numbers. It's not the numbers. It's about making true connections. It's about engaging with your ideal person. And ultimately, it's about getting that message out to your ideal client so you can call them in. Here's the thing. Wherever you choose to show up, do it with confidence, do it with authenticity, and be yourself. Don't try to be someone that you're not. If it doesn't feel authentic, don't do it. Drop it. Isn't that the most liberating thing you've ever heard? You don't have to do it. You don't have to be on Instagram. You don't have to try TikTok. You don't have to have a YouTube channel. You don't have to have a podcast. If it doesn't feel aligned and if you're not going to fully commit to it and lean into it, you may as well not do it. I'd love to know, what do you think about all this? Is this resonating with you? Where do you feel like you're your most authentic self? And what are the platforms that you're loving these days? What's working for you? This is a great community to share all of these insights. I'd love for you to comment if you're watching on the YouTube, and if you're listening on the podcast, leave us a review, leave us some comments on what you found interesting. I would love to know where you are getting visible right now, what some of your goals are, and what's working for you on social media right now. Let's normalize the fact that we don't have all the answers. We're all in this together, and we're all just trying to tell great stories, help people, change people's lives, and really just share our messages with the world. So thanks so much for listening and watching this episode, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to Camera Confident. Help us grow by subscribing, liking, and sharing this podcast. And be sure to follow me on LinkedIn at Shirlee Engel and on Instagram at b.camera.confident. See you next time.